Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The heat today is near unbearable. Days before the official start of summer, we have the details on what could be record-breaking temperatures. Plus, the Ontario's public watchdog has cleared the region's public school board of wrongdoing after investigating 2 school board decisions made over the last year. And Erie Street just got a little more Italian with 2 new bocce ball courts put in by a local pharmacy. No surprise, a heat warning is in effect right now for our viewing area, with those scorching temperatures sticking around for a large portion of the week. Daytime highs are expected to be between 32 and 35 this week, but feeling more like 40 or 45 with the humidity. Environment Canada says this heat dome can be dangerous.
And then at night, and that's the real issue, is that temperatures are going to stay very elevated at night. They're not going to cool off. They're not going to be, in the 15, 16. They're going to be more in 20, 22, 23. So you have those kind of what we call tropical nights and hot days. So that combination of 40, 30, 20 from humidex to high temperatures during the day to low temperatures at night is going to make for very serious health issues for people living in, especially in urban areas where you have a lot of pavement and asphalt, not a lot of green space. And so people will be laboring under these very intense kind of situations.
We'll bring our meteorologist Colette Kennedy a little earlier in the show today to break down those temperatures. She's standing by, and we'll head to her in just a few minutes. Well, work is about to start on one of the worst roads in our region. It joins a growing list of construction projects expected to snarl traffic this summer. The CBC's Chris Ensing maps out what's happening.
It's construction season, but improvements, short-term pain for long-term gain.
It's happening. Another stretch of Windsor's worst road is getting repaired. This half-a-kilometer stretch along Lausanne Parkway will get new storm and sanitary sewers, upgrades to the water main, along with new pavement, new sidewalk, and a multi-use trail. It starts next week and will take 6 months. Fixing the boulevard and concrete medians, that's going to take another 6 months. The entire project costing about $18 million.
We geek out at the city when we have these types of projects because they're so important for the future in Windsor as we build Windsor's future together.
This project is a piece of an evolving puzzle of construction work. There's overnight lane closures on the EC Row Expressway between Banwell and Jefferson, narrowing traffic to a single lane during the day. That's expected to end in a couple of weeks, with Windsor's mayor pleading for people to zipper merge.
Be patient, zipper merge. We want people to zipper merge. It's the most effective way to move traffic through a construction site. But know that all of these things are happening because City Council is investing in building Windsor's future. Here's
a crash course on the zipper merge. When 2 lanes become one and no one is around, stay in the lane that continues. But if traffic is building up, drivers should use both lanes and alternate letting someone in. Over on the other end of the city, no option to zipper merge here. Water main work on Sandwich Street continues this week. It's expected to end in a couple of weeks. Sewer main work will also keep Riverside Drive between Drouillard and Paulette closed until the end of the month. And the water main work that's forced drivers to detour around Tecumseh and Walker, that continues into November.
These are incremental improvements where there's short-term pain for long-term gain, but it speaks to the county and the city making investments to make sure that we're ready for the growth that we see coming here.
Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
A nice weekend to celebrate different cultures around Windsor ended somewhat sourly for one Carousel of the Nations vendor. More than 80% of glassware was stolen at the Mexican Pavilion on Erie Street, as well as some other thefts that police say have been reported. The owner says it's a shame someone would do that, and it comes at a cost.
It wasn't just one theft all at once. We believe it was just individuals pocketing a really nice glass one at a time as, and individually. That we didn't take a good look. We actually busted out extra glassware, our old glassware, partially through the night. We weren't really focused on that until it really started dying down towards the end of the night. We realized no glasses were coming back, and we had a very significant shortfall of glassware from what we started with. One of our Herbie Kirby's were stolen from Friday to Saturday. And then on Sunday, we also had an individual, while the festival was happening and we were absolutely packed with customers, pull up, go inside, and carried out one of our planters and brought it to their car to drive away. The audacity or the bravery of that person to do it in broad daylight, just pulling up and walking inside a business and walking out with something, not that it wasn't even small, and walking out with something to load up their car and drive away with. It does put a damper on things because, you know, you try your hardest, especially with what we do and being, you know, so public facing with our events and you know, our tours and everything that we're doing to put on a, you know, a happy face when you're trying to do something good, trying to do something that showcases the city and your neighborhood in a positive light, and you just keep getting, you know, knocked down or cut down at the knees every so often. You know, it does make you question things, question, you know, even why you're doing some of the things that you're doing and whether to move forward with it. But, you know, we're still here, we're still trying our best and still trying to put our best foot forward.
A pair of reports from Ontario's public watchdog have cleared Windsor-Essex Public School Board of wrongdoing. That's after the provincial ombudsman investigated 2 school board decisions made over the last year. To tell us more, the CBC's Kathleen Sailors joins us in studio. Kathleen, we know one of these reports stems from the naming of Kingsville's new public school, where there was major outcry about the naming process back in February. What did the ombudsman say about that?
So Ontario's ombudsman found that they received more than 300 complaints about what happened here. Paul Dubé, who penned the report, ultimately found that everything was above board. But here's what happened back in February. Kingsville's new K-12 school was quite controversially first called Erie Migration Academy. That was later changed to Erie Migration District School. But the process sparked a lot of backlash from the public and concerns that the board didn't follow its own procedure for school naming. But Ontario's ombudsman said that that was not the case. And in his report, he said that his review confirmed the Board of Trustees acted in accordance with their policies, regulations, and the governance bylaws with respect to the process and procedures for naming this new school. Board Chair Gail Hatfield tells CBC News today she anticipated that would be the case and had reviewed the board's policies and procedures herself when the decision was made. Some of the complaints to the ombudsman were about the conduct of individual trustees, and in his report, he said his office does not oversee those issues, and complaints about the conduct of trustees have to go to the board chair.
Kathleen, the ombudsman also released a second report. What was that about?
So that was actually about the board's gender expression policy and parental rights, and many of the issues and protests held about those issues last June and over the summer. At the time, trustees and staff said they felt unsafe in the board meetings because of public conduct. That led the board to pause in-person attendance at these meetings in June and in one in September. A complaint was filed with the ombudsman saying the board went against the Education Act. And again, Dubé found the board followed its policy, taking their responsibility for both public access and staff safety into account. They reopened the meetings when they had security and a safety plan in place, but the board also found that there were some serious safety considerations that fall. On September 20th, someone threw a rock through a meeting room window at the board office, and the ombudsman also said that, quote, one or more people defecated outside the building in view of staff members' offices. 2 trustees also received death threats, including one threat of a shooting. Hatfield told CBC News that she was in the room when the rock was thrown and says they don't know who did it. But staff actually did witness people relieving themselves outside office windows. Again, she says she's pleased that the ombudsman agreed with the board's actions and found no wrongdoing, and said that both investigations were thorough.
Thanks so much for that, Kathleen. That's the CBC's Kathleen Sailors reporting. Windsor's Little Italy just got a little bit more Italian. A pharmacy on Erie Street wanted to put a parking lot in. The city stressed the importance of green space. So Medica Pharmacy turned a part of the lot into bocce ball courts and hopes to bring new life to the street while reflecting the area's Italian culture.
The idea was to acquire some of the property in the community close to Medica Pharmacy to have a parking lot for patients. The city stressed the importance of having green space, so we decided collectively, rather than do a green space, do something like a set of bocce courts, which is what we did. Maybe a little bit of a reflection of the Italian community, something that I ended up learning that other cultures enjoy. And basically the idea was to create a space that the entire community could enjoy. Something where people can sit, maybe have an ice cream or a gelato from Gennaro's Cafe, wait for their prescriptions, or just partake in a game to enjoy the day, right, together in the community. I also felt that for quite a bit of time, we'll say the eastern side of Erie Street after Parent was a little neglected. So it was just something to beautify the area. And not only the people from this area to enjoy, but get people from all over Windsor to come and have a game and just celebrate spending time in the community.
It's very exciting. From before what it used to be, it's really, really nice now. And it's good for all the people, you know what I mean? Exercise, whatever. It's a beautiful spot. Excellent place.
When I was a kid back in the old country, we used to play with that guy right there. Back in over almost 60 years ago, we used to play this. I haven't played since. Like I say, we need something like this for passing time. It's a good thing what they're doing.
I'm gonna actually enjoy this right here. Yeah, I'm gonna really enjoy it. So we played the winter lead at the Komodo. So and now I'm gonna start over here and have some fun.
What do you think of the mat here? Do you think it measures up?
Well, the mat is a little bit different than what we play on, right? This is more like a lawn bowling. So yeah, it'll hold up. Everybody takes care of it. It's going to be really great. Like I can't wait to get some competitions out here.
Wow, Colette, stepping outside feels like stepping into a sauna today. This weather is something else, and it isn't even officially summer yet.
Yeah, that's right. That doesn't come till Thursday. But I know what you mean, right? It feels like you're just walking into a bowl of soup, essentially,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and it's almost like, I know for me, it's almost hard to take a breath. Like it's so warm that it feels like you can't even get enough oxygen into your lungs.
Yeah, and Meg, that's a really good point. I'm going to show you what's going on here with the warnings, but taking a breath for folks with any kind of breathing issues or underlying medical conditions, it can become very difficult to breathe. We need to be really watching out for others in our community, not just ourselves, but really checking on our friends and neighbors, especially elderly neighbors you might have, and if you know they don't have air conditioning, because this is going to be prolonged over multiple days. That's why the heat warning is in place. And it's not just about the daytime highs and the humidex values that we get into during the day, which will be, yes, mid-40s, but it's that the nighttime temperatures don't really provide much relief, especially if you don't have the benefit of air conditioning, because even if those numbers, the temperature drops to say 22, 23 through the overnight hours, the humidex values can still be staying up there around 30. We'll see that the next few days. And 30 to 39, some discomfort, but we're in this 40 to 45, or at times we may even jump over that 45. We're talking about great discomfort for sure, avoiding any kind of exertion, but it can be very dangerous in terms of heat stroke. So what do some of those symptoms look like, whether it's in yourself, your pet, somebody that's around you? Dizziness, rapid heartbeat, it can be headache, it can present as, or certainly feeling faint or actually fainting, all right? Some of the things to be looking for: really need to stay hydrated, but also as much as we can staying out of that peak heat of the day and the sun. Current temperatures, this is where we're sitting, still 34 degrees, feeling like 43 currently in Windsor. And the winds have been kind of all over the place, at times a little bit gustier, especially a little further east, or where we get some of these isolated showers or thunderstorms that bubble up. And when we have conditions like this, where there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, then we can see some of these thunderstorms isolated but triggered. And when they do occur, 30, 40, 50 millimeters of rain can come down in a short period of time. So just be aware of that over the next several days as well, that we may be seeing these thunderstorms here and there. Harder to predict with this kind of atmospheric conditions that we're seeing, with this kind, that we would even get, be able to pinpoint where they're going to bubble up. All right, look at those overnight temperatures. That's one of the, what I'm talking about here, when they're that warm, but then the humidex values are so high. And look at those readings over the next several days. For other parts of Ontario, I'd expect this to be backing off and breaking by Friday or into the weekend. I'm not so sure, as I'm looking at our models and the projections there, Meg, that it's really going to break that much for us. So really prolonged here, what we're looking at.
I'm really feeling for people who don't have air conditioning, Colette.
And it can be deadly, so that's why we have to be so vigilant in looking after our friends and neighbors.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that. Two Windsor brothers are making names for themselves in the junior hockey game in different provinces and at different levels. Earlier this month, Sebastien Gervais won the Memorial Cup with the Saginaw Spirit. That's the biggest trophy in major junior hockey. Just a few days before that, Julien Gervais made it to the Centennial Cup semifinals with the Calgary Canucks. That's for the national title in Junior A hockey, but he was chosen as the MVP for the whole tournament. They both joined Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge in studio this morning.
And Julien, you were named MVP of the Centennial Cup tournament. Did that take away from the sting of losing the game?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it was obviously tough. Like, you work all year to want to win, and like my brother's situation, like that's what they end up doing. So, but it was a pretty nice consolation prize for sure.
Yeah. Does that create any rivalry between the two of you?
I'm a little bit,
jealousy?
I'd say, yeah.
I think so. I think that's fair.
A little jealousy, but just so happy for him.
I'm really happy
so
for
cool.
you. Yeah,
like,
I'm sure.
At the time, it was really incredible. Like, I don't even remember like the last couple of seconds of the game, but like it's the biggest trophy in hockey, and like I just still can't believe it. Like it still gives me goosebumps.
Check out this lightning show along the Detroit skyline early this morning before most of us were awake. It's a time-lapse video showing all of those flashes in the sky, and with it came some rain, although no trace of that left now with those steamy temperatures. We've got more to come here on CBC Windsor News. Stay tuned. Now to a CBC News exclusive about an Ontario woman on the hunt for justice. She turned to police after being sexually assaulted and harassed by a co-worker in the office. Her abuser was convicted, but she also submitted a complaint to Ontario's Human Rights Tribunal, hoping for systemic change. But it took 6 years before the tribunal set a date for the final step. As Angelina King found out, her case is just one example of how backlogs are impacting those who file human rights claims.
I wasn't going to remain silent anymore.
Patricia Sayers says she was always thinking about the women she left behind after she was sexually assaulted and harassed by a coworker at her retail job.
I went to management to report him and what had happened, and they basically did nothing. This is the report I was given at the store.
So she quit. She says she didn't feel safe at work. She went to the police and filed a case with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, or HRTO, against the man who assaulted her and management who dealt with her complaint.
I thought it was the quickest way to make it safer for those women. That was not true at all.
Her HRTO case was filed in February 2018, but it was deferred because the employee was criminally charged. He was convicted of sexual assault in 2019, and the HRTO case resumed. The next year, unsuccessful mediation. 3 years later, Sayers finally got hearing dates, October 2023. But the HRTO seemingly didn't book them into its system, so new dates were set for January 2024, 6 years after she filed.
I wanted to effect change at that particular store.
Which is why she went to the HRTO, because it can order public interest remedies with the purpose of preventing similar situations from happening. But because the case dragged on for so long, Sayers says the remedy she was seeking became unattainable.
The HRTO was at fault for that happening because of the dysfunction that is going on there, the backlog that is there.
By the time her case would have been heard, the store was changing ownership. 2 of the men she filed against no longer worked there, and a third was set to retire. Because of that, she says she agreed to a watered-down settlement earlier this year, which included some compensation and the store providing human rights training. She withdrew her case at the tribunal, so her voice, she says, was never heard.
It would have been important for me to be able to say that in a hearing, for them to listen to it, and see if the Human Rights Tribunal said, yeah, she does have value. Women do have value.
According to tribunal data obtained by CBC Toronto, fewer cases have been making it to a hearing. Merit decisions have dropped by nearly 60% in the last 6 years, and the number of abandoned cases is going up. There were 3 times more last fiscal year compared to 6 years ago.
You can wear people out.
Kathy Laird is with a group that keeps tabs on the province's tribunals and says the backlog and wait times can lead to applicants abandoning their cases, files being dismissed, and stories never heard.
That's what makes human rights law, is when matters get to a hearing and get fully heard and decided.
Lawyer Tanya Walker says she's seeing the backlog improve, but
it doesn't serve any good for anyone if a matter just settles or is dismissed because of delay. It's not fair. It's not justice.
Tribunals Ontario says it doesn't comment on specific cases, but it's working on moving applications through the system in a more efficient and timely manner. It says at the end of this fiscal year, it had reduced its backlog by 13%.
I think that our society at large doesn't take violence against women seriously enough. That's why I want to speak up. And I want to try and change that for future generations of women and young girls.
Hoping they are safe and feel heard. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
A warning label like the one on cigarettes, but for social media. That's what health officials in the U.S. want to see. More on that coming up. The top U.S. health official wants to see warning labels on social media platforms like those that appear on cigarette boxes or for alcohol. He says the popular apps can be harmful to young people's mental health. Chris Reyes has more from New York.
America's top doctor wants Congress to approve warning labels on social media platforms similar to what you would find on alcohol and cigarettes. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy calls the mental health crisis in young people an emergency. He's urging lawmakers to act now.
A warning label would help parents to understand these risks. Many parents don't know that those risks exist. And we have data from tobacco warning labels that in fact tells us that they can be helpful in changing awareness and changing behavior.
Dr. Murthy compares the harms of social media with that of unsafe cars, planes, and food. He said you can't put all the responsibilities on parents when it comes to regulating social media use. In his op-ed, he writes, there's no seatbelt for parents to click, no helmet to snap in place, no assurances that trusted experts have investigated and ensured that these platforms are safe for kids. He wrote, there are just parents and their children trying to figure it out on their own, pitted against some of the best product engineers and most well-resourced tech companies in the world. He also said even young people are sharing stories with him, asking for help.
Talking about how it makes them feel worse about their body image, how it makes them feel worse about their lives as they're constantly comparing themselves to others.
Last year, Dr. Murthy also issued a public health advisory about social media, urging lawmakers and tech companies to make the platforms safer. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
When you put out bird seed, you normally expect to see birds and maybe squirrels, but probably not this.
His mother's not nearby.
A New Brunswick couple woke up to a young black bear dining out on their back deck. It had a tight grip on their feeder and they weren't going to shoo him away. They say they get lots of other animals in their yard, but the bear encounter is a first. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.